Okay, welcome to episode 2 of For the Birds podcast. Today we're featuring a good friend of mine, Rich Annunziata, and he's got a wealth of knowledge concerning the legal industry. He's been practicing for over 27 years. He's a board certified mediator.
Correct.
And a qualified arbitrator.
Correct.
Full-time ADR guy today.
100%.
100%. And this is a guy that I really respect. And man, you're one of the first people that came to mind that I want to talk to. What I want to talk to you about and what I want you to tell everybody today are really 3 categories, because you've had an amazing journey over the years. You've had an amazing career as a lawyer, and then you've gone through some crazy health issues, and your outlook on life has changed, and you're one of the most positive people that I know now.
Oh, wow.
And I just love talking to you, man. And we've had some lunches and connected, and I think this is going to be awesome to hear your story. And finally, I want you to give some advice to the younger generation for how they can tackle any issues that they might have in their life.
All right.
So let's start out and just give a 2-minute intro of who you are and what you like to do.
Well, my name is Richard Annunziata, and I've been practicing here in Naples since 1996. My story is I was born and raised in Queens, New York. I'll give you the 30-second version. Born and raised in Queens, New York. Moved to Florida in 1983. Finished up on the East Coast, high school in the East Coast. Went to Tampa, met my wife. Practiced law. Started practicing here in 1996, and moved here from the East Coast to raise our family. And pretty much had a pretty cool career. I didn't start out at the top. I had to kind of crawl my way up there, and I basically was a civil litigator and a commercial litigator for over 27 years. Yeah, and my life was a little derailed back in about 11 years ago. I was hit with a stage 4 cancer of my small intestine, a part of it's called the jejunum. I didn't even know.
When you first found out about cancer, were you diagnosed with stage 4 cancer immediately?
Yes, I was.
Wow.
I didn't know what was going on. When I went to the doctor the first time, I grabbed my side over here, and I said, my stomach hurts. And he said, that's not your stomach, that's your liver. And that was the beginning. And so I got hit with a stage 4 cancer at 44 years old. And the biggest thing that I could, one of the big things, I was 40 years old. This story even happens a little before cancer. When I was 40 years old, I kind of woke up. I had just buried my parents. I'm in the middle of my career. I'm a partner in a large firm out of Akron, Ohio. And I just was like, I hit a wall. I was like, what is going on with this life? It's exhausting. I know I might be going off script with what you asked.
There's no script here, Rich.
Okay, good.
No script.
But I just hit a wall with life. It just wasn't enough. I was overweight. I was almost 300 pounds. I was very unhappy in my profession. It was not very fulfilling at the time, and anyway, I'm sorry if I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent. I'm just trying to tell the story, but I wound up having an 8-year battle with cancer. I wound up having 21 surgeries. I had north of 20 tumors in my body, about 17 in my liver. I wound up having I had 21 surgeries that had ultimately took out pieces of my liver. I had tumors in my lung. I still have something in there that's it's encapsulated. It's a non-issue. I had rounds and rounds of years of chemotherapy, and I had liver failure at the end, and my liver started failing over a number of years. And I went home to die around 2021.
Oh, right in the middle of COVID.
Right in the middle of COVID. But
That's
everyone was all upset about COVID.
Yeah.
I was fine. I was already 8 years into cancer, and I was
Oh my
I was
gosh.
isolated from the world. So I was like, why is everybody so upset? It's like, this is normal for me.
Yeah.
But I went home to die, so to speak. And I mean, there's a lot to the story. Maybe one day we can get into more of the story. So I wound up when I first got diagnosed, I didn't know what was going on. It was like an atom bomb in my life. Had to go through a bunch of, I had to learn to live with a chronic disease. Just before cancer, I'd gone on a major health kick, and I lost my weight. I lost about 100 pounds, and I thought I was on the road being fit and going forward, and then I got kind of my legs just knocked out from underneath me with this diagnosis, and then I wound up going. Like I said, I wound up getting all my treatment up at Sloan Kettering in Manhattan, and having to travel monthly up there, and then at the very end, like after a period of time of dealing with cancer, a period of time, like 8 years of dealing with cancer, I said, like I told you, I had liver failure, and I didn't know what else to do. So I finally reached out to my doctor, and I said, what is there anything? And she gave me, she literally wrote on a sheet of paper, here, call this guy. And I called this guy, he happens to be a surgeon at UPMC, and I was able to obtain a liver transplant.
Wow.
About 3 years ago. And it was a fascinating experience, because I was able to, in 4 months, I went from pretty much a death sentence to the possibility of life, to getting a liver, having the surgery, and recovering from it. It took a year to recover from that. And the donor is a local a friend of mine, and she taught me some things about life and people that I didn't know was available. I thought I had seen a lot, being like, what happens is when you go through those kind of things, you something, it was like living with a gun against your head for like a long time, daily and nonstop for years. It's not just and you have all kinds of issues going on, both with your health, it's anxiety, every time you get a scan. I've had probably close to, honestly, I think I've had maybe well north, I think, of 120 scans over that period of time. And every time you had one, you didn't know if you were going to live or die, because you don't know if the cancer's bad, you don't know if you're, where you're going.
That's just scary. So is there one piece of wisdom that you learned from going through that scary process on a daily basis that you could impart to anybody else that might be experiencing the same trauma?
Well, there are a couple of things. I kind of came up with like 5 things that you had to do should you get hit with I could speak to cancer. It's hard to speak with other things, but I think, I did see themes that ran through everything, both, it's post-traumatic stress and grief. And you're going to deal with that, whether you have a major illness, whether you have a loss. It can come in different ways, but it's pretty much, we're all suffering, people who are in that space are suffering from an incredible amount of post-traumatic stress, or current stress, maybe not post-traumatic, but it's like a nonstop PTSD kind of a vibe. And I found that having to take, getting the right mindset was the thing that saved me. And I couldn't do it alone. I had to it was a lot of people who taught me how to change my mindset. And at first I thought I had a death sentence. And when I came back from my first surgery, I thought that I was cured, because they took out the cancer. I was like, I was really so hopeful that it was done. And in 5 weeks, 5 more tumors had grown into my liver.
Wow.
And I was given another diagnosis. And I was like, wow, what am I going to do now? And so, slowly falling apart, not really resting. When you first get hit with diagnosis, it's like literally getting hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And it was psychologically difficult. It was physically difficult, all that. And one of the things I really focused on was getting my head right. And I had to get my mind right. And for me, what that meant was coming up with a sort of a mantra, or a viewpoint of how I would go through this whole process. And I was committed to the concept of wanting to survive it. I'm sorry, I didn't want to just survive it. I wanted to, I didn't want to just survive cancer. I wanted to live through it, because I didn't know if I was going to live or die, literally like month to month. I just didn't know for like 8 years, or until 8 years, until the liver transplant, and then 9 years after that, because I still didn't know after that. It was very complicated. So the one thing, so that's first, getting your mind right was such an essential part of my ability to make a change.
When you talk about getting your mind right, was there a certain shift in your mindset, like how you thought about things, how you were more positive about things, or?
Yes. I'll give you a very short example. Like it was actually around the time that I got hit with cancer, came and went for the second time. It had come and gone 8 times for me. So the first time it was a big blow. The second time it was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, it was at that point I had to make the decision. Literally, I didn't understand. You hear the saying, happiness is a choice. Well, I sat there and I was like, well, do I? I was scared to be happy. and scared to have a positive outlook because I was like, oh, what happens if it comes back? What if it's going to be, what am I going to live with?
Right.
You know, so I was cautiously optimistic, and I just got disgusted with that. And I threw that out. I said, no, I'm going to change it. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to do this. And I allowed myself to be happy and enjoy the things that were around me.
So you went from cautiously optimistic to a positive mindset of being happy.
I had to fight, literally like push
Right.
the negativity out of yourself.
Right.
You know? And then,
And I didn't go through cancer myself, but my dad went through it, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and he was gone in 18 months. So I was close to somebody who went through a similar battle and didn't come out on the other side. And, you know, he always had a positive mindset and hope, right? Hope that he was going to feel better and be cured. And, you know, I think that, like, if you lose that sense of hope, you kind of lose yourself, right?
absolutely. You know, absolutely. I believe what you think will actually happen. So if you think you're going to die, I'm sorry to say that. Like, not just that you're going to think you're going to die, you're going to die. But if you live in that energy all the time, it's going to be hard for you to crawl out of that and see the positive. You're going to be caught up in the negative. So once I was able to change my mindset, and it took work. You know, I had to, like, you know, I had a friend of mine stop me and told me some examples on what to do. Actually, it was the donor's husband. Actually, this family is amazing who's helped me. They helped me both mentally, and then 8 years later, they wound up helping me with a liver. So, you know, for what it's worth, like, with cancer, I found there were 5 things you have to do. Let me just say that, like, real quick. Like one, you got to get to the best hospital that you can afford. 2, you got to man up and woman up and do your surgeries, do your chemotherapies. There's no way around it. I took the best of Eastern and Western medicine and applied it to myself. What I mean is, like, while the doctors were doing their thing, I was dealing with energy work with the Chinese medicine. I was dealing with, you know, I was exploring spirituality in any way I could, you know, in any which way, trying to have as much experience in this life as I could.
Now they say that there's no atheists in a foxhole. Did you find spirituality during this time of your life?
Let me tell you, it was the most profoundly spiritual time of my entire life. I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but I can tell you that I just don't know how you can, not understand that there's more to this life than what's in front of your face. So anyway, for me, and I did. I found I don't know any other word for it, but like a piece in it with a spirituality that helped me get through a lot of this.
That's great.
You know? And also just an outlook of just acceptance. You know, going through that process, death is not the worst. I know it's scary because people don't deal with that a lot, and it's going to arrive at everyone's door eventually. Okay, one way or another. Death is like this whole thing. When I was under this like squeezing situation of like with death, or the facing the potential of my death, I had an 80% chance of being dead the first year, 95% death within 5 years.
And 8 years of this.
8 years
I'm sure
of
the
that.
percentage
I was waiting to get to the
99.9%.
By the time I got to the 5th year,
Man.
the doctors were telling me that I was writing my own book. Like, we don't know what's going on here. Like, it was, and the cancer I had, again, it's technically called adenocarcinoma of the jejunum, which is small intestine cancer. It's basically the duodenum. It's just a different part of it. And talking about death, too.
Death not being the scariest thing.
Yeah, it's not, because it's filled with acceptance. It's filled with surrender. It's filled with compassion. It's filled with love. It's filled with appreciation.
Right.
It's filled with so many beautiful things. And you know what? If you get lost in the fear, and those are big words. I mean, it's hard to, you're going to be lost in the fear. I mean, I'm still lost in the fear sometimes. So don't think there's like some panacea that you're going to walk away from your fear. It's about managing your fear, though.
Right.
And controlling it and not letting it control you. That is key.
And fear holds so many people back.
Oh, it does.
And once I think what you said was acceptance, and that's just such a big part of life, is accepting things that come to you, and it's how you react to them, and how you change your mentality, and how you shift your focus on other things, like people that you love or that want to spend time with.
At first, I did it for them.
Right.
I was dead in my mind.
Right.
I'm a dead man walking, literally. That's what was my. I had a buddy of mine who basically told me some truth about. He talked to some doctor friends of ours, and he's like, "Man, you're a dead man walking." And I hated him for it, but he motivated me though. He motivated me. And what happened was, like, once I was able to go and give it for my kids, like, okay, first I wanted to do it for my my family, my wife and my children. And that worked for a while. And slowly, little by little, I started to want to do it for me, you know? And at first it was just like, hey, I'm just going to, whatever, I'm going to live, I'm going to die, you know? But that was an interesting part of it, you know, that I had, you know, having something to live for does help too.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
let me ask you this. So before your diagnosis, were you a full-time civil litigator?
Yeah,
at
I was
a big firm?
partner in a law firm based out of Akron, Ohio, an office here in Bonita, and I was there for 10 years. 10 years in, I was 44 years old, probably at the
like
sweet spot of my career.
Yeah, and so everything slows down, stops
on a dime.
Wow.
On a dime. And what happened was, when I got my diagnosis, it was in Columbus, Ohio. And what happened was we told a few people, and I literally said, no one's going to know about this. I don't want anybody knowing about this. It's a normal first reaction. Well, a friend of ours, another attorney out in the Jacksonville area, decided to put something on Facebook. And with the purest of heart, she's saying, oh, God, you know, give a prayer, you know, say a prayer for my friend, Rich Annunziata, who is diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I was like, oh God, everybody knows. 500 people knew in a second. So my world kind of imploded. I thought, oh my God, my career is dead. I'm done. And what happened was, it wound up being a blessing because people came out of the woodwork. First of all, I didn't know I knew 500 people, and literally 500 people. A wave of love and prayer, and a wave of positive energy came my way. And I wound up, it actually was freeing. I didn't, you know, instead of locking myself in another prison of not being able to talk about my situation, I was forced to now.
Yeah.
And it did. It messed with, it messed with, it's not that messed with my career. I wasn't able to work after that. Yeah. I mean, I just wasn't for the longest time.
And then afterwards, there was a shift in your career to full-time mediator and arbitrator.
Well, that happened after the liver transplant.
Oh, okay.
All right. So when I came back I had my liver transplant in August of 2022. And I was done with the practice of law. I had just retired in 2021. I went home to die, like I told you. And then I was able to get a liver transplant through the love and kindness of other people. And when I came off that, it took me a year to get my head right, you know, before I could even think about what I wanted to do. I was done with the practice of law. I was like, I'm never going back. Anybody who's a litigator knows that it's a meat grinder to a big, it's a hard profession. It's a good profession. But it's, you know, for someone coming off that, it's not the easiest thing to go back to.
Right.
And I thought of other things. I thought maybe I'd be an Uber driver. I thought maybe I'd make sandwiches, you know, be happy. My family was in the restaurant business. And I thought I could do all this stuff. I could do something, maybe open a small restaurant or something else. And then I started to, actually, this is one of the biggest things if you want to talk about what you could give people, all right, was I started to do some deep meditation, even deeper. I started to go deep. I was able to get away from the fear. I was on the other side of things. And I started to look inward. And when you start to look inward, I think that's where all the answers really are.
Sure.
We all have an intelligence that's within us that'll really inform. And I don't know that I was so in tune with that. And after I started doing some deep meditation, I know people go, how do you meditate? I can't meditate. Well, you don't have to quiet anything around you. We'll talk about that. That could be another podcast, how to meditate.
Yeah.
But I started doing some deep reflection and deep internal work. And I kind of came out with a life plan when I was done with it. It took about, you know, I'd say almost a year of that.
Yeah.
You know, of every day working at it. First, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Then I was reading the Tao Te Ching and studying ancient Chinese religions and getting deep into the, you know, this concept of meditation, trying to understand what it is. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a cause for a lot, you know, what it led me to was the realization that to have the life you really want, you have to have balance, okay? And there's also some other things that have come out of that since, like where you have to have the inside should align with the outside.
So good.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like so if you're doing something that doesn't jive with your like I was a litigator for 27 years. I never went to trial. Now you can look at that as a weakness. Now I've represented billionaires down to the people with no money. Okay, and
Or you can say that you were so good at handling cases that you got them settled outside of court.
Well,
You
that's
saved
how
your client's money.
No, that's how I saw it.
from going to
I
trial.
saw it that way, and local judges taught me
Yep.
some of that.
Yep.
You know, Judge Brousseau, if you don't remember Judge Brousseau locally.
Yep.
But judges taught me that, and that's how I did my practice. I made a good living, and I didn't have to drag everybody into a trial. Now, I would go to trial if I had to, and everyone knew that I would do that, which is great. That meditation led to some things. A realization that I think people are really looking outward too much.
Well, people are concerned about what others think about them. So
I let
perception,
go.
right. So a lot of people, their perception is, well, I have to act how other people want me to act. But as soon as you get rid of that, right, and you focus on yourself and who you want to be, and you know yourself, then what other people think doesn't matter anymore.
It doesn't matter. But people are concerned. I heard the saying. I'm sure you've heard it too. If you didn't, it's funny. It's like, people don't worry about what people are thinking. They're too busy worrying about themselves.
Exactly.
Right. So you can. And I saw something on social media where a guy lays down in the middle of like Penn Station, let's say, or something. I don't know where it was, but he's laying in a big train. He goes, watch how nobody gives a crap about anything. He lays down. He goes, watch, I'm just going to lay here. And people just walking around him. He goes, look, you can literally do anything. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
And it's true to a certain extent, And you know what? The people who are judging you probably don't need them in your life anyway, if they're really judging you that badly.
Right.
But the balance, one of the things, the mediation, it's interesting. The meditation, what it gave me was, I went to my career as a litigator for 27, how I had a good track record with regard to litigation and not going to trial. I was able to, I resolve things. That was my passion. So then I started doing reflection. I said, wow, there's actually a space in here. And I can actually have a second career. And so I decided I was going to be a mediator. So I went to the courses, did everything I was supposed to do, became a certified mediator in civil, appellate. I do guardianship work. I'm certified. I'm about to get my family certification. I'm certified in appellate law. And when I say certified, it's certified as a mediator. And I don't practice litigation anymore. Now I spend my time doing what I really love to do, which is helping people solve their problems.
That's
so I actually had a 3-point plan, and I was going to focus on my music. I was going to focus on my story a little bit, about my story, because there's so many, this little conversation is not going to capture what the 10 years was.
Sure.
There's so much beauty, so many points of growth along the way, and friendship and things, and it's quite the story. But one of the things it taught me, one of the things that also came out of meditation was not only a life plan, but the concept of that you have to have balance. And if you don't have balance, it's true. I think that's, where you get cancer. I think that's where you get, disease. I think we get everything when you're out of balance.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just my perspective. I think that you need to go the other way wherever you are. So here I was with a, tight attorney at 40 years old, miserable.
Stress.
I went and became a hippie for a few years.
Yeah, good.
And, and that doesn't get out of you. So I might still be one a little bit. But at the end of the day, my whole life and energy, and it comes, I think people feel it. Because it's just who I am. Like the inside is aligned with the outside.
Well, that's why I like talking to you and hanging out with you.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like
thank
you
you.
just convey some sort of energy that makes people want to be attracted to you and be around you, right?
I hear this.
Have good energy.
I'd hate to be like walking around thinking that, like in my own head,
No,
and
but
I feel
true.
egotistical. But I've heard this from other friends.
Yeah,
and
that's
people.
good.
Yeah,
good. I mean, that helps with how people perceive you, how you interact with others, and how you're willing to share your story, and how to share some help with other people that might need it too.
One of the biggest things I've learned is that if you share your pain, people share theirs.
That's true.
It's really that simple. It's
Well,
like there's but you got to be comfortable enough to do it. Like you can't be if you hopefully you're not too afraid of what people think, because I'm sure there are people who think I'm crazy with some of the the things I've done, the places I've gone, the thing just how I've had to conduct myself to get through it. And
That's such a good point about sharing your pain. And I think that, we are put through tribulations here on earth, trials, whatever they are, pain, suffering, right? In order to come out on the other side and be able to help other people that are going through the same stuff or similar things that you've gone through, so you can talk to them about your failures or problems or issues or, struggles that you've gone along the way, and then you can help bring them up. And I think that's kind of, that's how I try to do things in life. And, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I can talk
You
about
will
those.
just continue,
And I'll make more mistakes, you
Right.
know, and I'll make mistakes with my girls and raising kids and whatnot. You know, we are fallible people. We sin all the time. You know, we're just bad people, but it's how we deal with that and how we come out with a positive attitude at the end of the day,
Right.
and help others along the way and pick them up, you know, and
Right.
bring them along, and, you know, be like a strong foundation for them if they need it. So,
Right.
and
Well, I wanted, well, even for them, like my kids, I wanted to do that for them. I had
Yeah.
to show them that they can, you know, I don't know, what's the term when someone like clubs your knees out from underneath you? I can't remember what that term is, whatever. It's like take your leg, whatever it is, taking your legs out from under, when that shit, it's good.
when you get whacked.
When you get whacked, it's like, whoa, get hit by a truck. When an atom bomb falls on you, whatever it is, you have to, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to fall apart?
Yeah. Well,
You
you
know?
can. You can.
You can't. No, you're allowed to fall
Yep,
apart. Of
you-
course,
you
you
can-
should fall apart. It's okay to express your energy.
You know-
Don't hold it in. But you know,
When traumatic things happen, I think there are, you know, one of two. You can take one of two paths. Maybe there are more paths, but you can either embrace it,
Yeah.
and you can become closer to God or your spirituality, right?
Right.
And become more aware of yourself, or you can reject it and become negative and down on things and give up, right?
absolutely.
And I mean, I'm sure there are other things you can do, but man, I like the more positive path and the more positive approach to life, because I think you get better results that way.
I suffer from, you know, constantly having to fight that though. You know, to get to that space.
Oh, yeah.
Recently, I was, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I go into spaces I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So I got to fight. But you know, you don't have to get lost in there. So fight your ways through that. You
That's
know,
true.
That's the thing.
So we were talking about mistakes. If there's one thing that you could go back and do over again as young Rich, what would it be? And you know, some people say, I wouldn't change anything. I'm happy where I was. Or
You know,
whatever, right?
I will say one thing. I want to answer that question, but like, I want to say one thing first. It's like I wouldn't change the cancer experience.
Right.
Never.
That's amazing.
It was the best time of
Wow.
my life.
Wow, that's crazy.
And
to
even
think
to
that.
the, I mean, my wife and I look at each other still like, oh my
Yeah.
God, we had so much time together and so close. It broke down every wall. It just was so beautiful. I mean, I know,
Wow.
and not everybody gets that. Trust
Yeah,
me,
no,
I understand
get
that. So
well, because you're vulnerable, and you're just talking about the real things. You're not talking about superficial things.
Right.
You're not, just talking for the sake of it. You're
Right,
talking about
right.
what happens if I die.
oh no,
Right.
oh yeah,
And-
or when I die.
right.
it wasn't even like
Wow,
if.
man, that's
It's like, so
crazy.
when I die, this is what
Right,
I'd like to
right,
happen. Blah, blah. Yeah, oh yeah, planning for your death and living
Yeah.
at the same time.
Wow.
What I would do over, I would find much more balance in my life. Balance on all. I mean, balance really needs to be everywhere. It needs to be in your food. It needs to be whatever you consume. It needs to be. You know, whether it's even if you're eating a certain way, it goes to the balance. Like, so for instance, if you're overweight and you're eating like terrible foods for yourself and you're not giving yourself the nutrition, go eat healthy for a little while. If you're too upwound, go be like I told you earlier, go be a hippie. If you're a hippie, go be straight laced for a while, because that, you need the balance. In other words, go to the counterpoint. Don't just be a hippie. Hippies can get cancer too. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, so no. But my point is, if I had to go back and pick one thing, it would be what would I change, or what would I do? What
What would you do? Is there anything you do over again or change?
the biggest thing would be to make sure that I had balance in my life. Truly, because people don't have. I mean, I see the most successful attorneys in town. They're friends of mine. They're working 7 days a week. They're making great. They do well, but it's
They're just grinding.
there's
away.
not enough balance
Right.
in the space of that. So I mean, it's if the prize is only money,
What's that?
what is
Right.
you can't take any of it with you.
Nope.
None of it. And those realizations, right in my face.
And I've also been a big health proponent, because I went through a huge transformation 4 or 5 years ago. I was drinking all the time. I was stressed out at my job. My family was unhappy. I was neglecting my wife, and I was working too much, and there was no balance. And I changed my life around by doing 75 hard, where you do 2 workouts a day and you don't drink for 75 days, and you change your routine. And you almost need something drastic like that, or like something else that comes and smacks you across the head or whacks your knees, to shift your mindset and be like, man, I was working too hard. Why? Like, my health was deteriorating. I wasn't happy.
Right.
I was going to lose my family. Right. And then you have this this crazy thing happen, and you just shift your perspective. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, that's not too hard. And you work on your health,
Right.
your mental health, your exercise, your eating right, and then everything kind of comes together with that balance, I think, that you're talking about.
Right.
But it almost sometimes takes you to get at a low point in order to be able to, elevate yourself and crawl out of that hole that you've been in.
I mean, and it's hard though, like, because you don't always have that perspective. Like, the experience gave me the perspective,
Right.
so it's hard
Right.
to like
Right.
but that would be the one thing. But sometimes you have to go through your own pain to you have to save yourself.
That's crazy.
You just have to save yourself
Yep.
because
Yep.
no one's coming for you. No one's going to save you. You can go to doctors and everything else. And the one thing I would say that if you're dealing with things in your life, you got to take control of it.
That's true.
And you can listen to your doctors, but understand too. Don't just listen blindly. I'm alive because I asked for things. I had a pump. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go into it. I had a pump put in my abdomen, tied to my liver. That's not a normal treatment for cancer.
Yeah.
It was a lady one of the best people on the planet dealing with this. She put a pump in my abdomen and was able to feed chemo directly to my liver. And so I had that. And then I had to add, like years later, that was one surgery that really literally saved my life, I think, because most people die from this cancer.
Yeah.
And so she was able to keep it, with an intense chemo, she was able to save me, but she also destroyed my liver.
Wow.
And I also asked for the liver transplant. No one was offering me one. I went and I asked for it, and I pushed, and I fought for it,
Yeah.
And so those are two small examples, but it's about taking, so, life is funny because I wish I can go back and maybe teach that younger Rich, that not to have a little more patience, a little more balance.
Yep, I hear you. All right, so we got time for a couple more questions, and the first one I want to do is this is obviously video, and a podcast that will be preserved forever over the internet because anything you post on the internet.
I wish, well, maybe we could do one or two more. And
That's fine.
We can flush out
as
more.
many as you want. But so you have 3 daughters.
I do,
and a wonderful wife.
I do,
of many years.
Anything 36 years.
Anything you want to say to or about your family that could be preserved forever on the internet?
Oh my God, they're the reason for my being.
That's awesome.
There's nothing more.
That's amazing.
There's nothing else, guys. They have been my high point since forever, but with an awareness, like for me, like since this happened, it kind of brought me even more aware and more of how beautiful these people are in my life. So my daughters have been an incredible source of strength for me. They and my wife, incredible. I mean, the sacrifice that when you get cancer, the whole family gets cancer, So these people took a ride with me, and hopefully they learned some lessons along the way about taking care of themselves. I love them more than anything. I love them more than myself. I love them more than anything. This is going to be preserved forever.
Forever.
Just know that
I love it.
There was nothing else. There's nothing else I need. Just you guys.
That's amazing. I love that, man. I absolutely love that. All right, and then I'd say the last question would be: is there any advice that you give to the younger generation of attorneys who are either just starting out or maybe unhappy in where they're at in their career?
Yeah. Don't wait too long to take your steps that you need to take, to fulfill whatever it is that you're looking to fulfill. I waited a long time before I actually opened a law firm in the middle of all this, I had to have partners in because I couldn't do the work a ton of fully, or at times. And I would say that the youngest, again, I honestly, I would say go into it with balance.
Yep.
This is a hard profession because it's kind of so demanding. I think it's 7 days a week, 24 hours, because it's in your head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never always was for me. I assume it was for you, right?
Well, you're fighting with everybody, right? You're not a doctor holding a scalpel and
No,
having somebody say, "I object." Right?
You're
You're fighting with judges, the lawyers on the other side, your clients.
Right, you're fighting with everything's
the mediator.
You're
just fighting every day, all day long.
So young lawyers should find an area that makes them, I'd say, like, I know it sounds simple, but like let the inside match the outside.
I love that.
So, and I only learned that because it happened for me. Yeah. It's not like I walked on this great path where I knew it from day one. Yeah. I didn't. I was miserable, at times. At times I would love this profession. It gives you a good living. It takes care of you. It's a good, it's not a bad profession. It just can grind you up a little if you let it.
All right, everybody. Rich Annunziata. Rich, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
They can. I have a website. It's AnnunziataResolution.com. One word, Annunziata, ANNUNZIATA Resolution.com. And you find me through the Florida bar if you need to get me as well. I'd give you my cell, but I don't know. But it's going to be on YouTube. So.
Yeah, don't have to do that. Don't give out your cell phone. But you got your website. You've got social media?
Not yet, but I'm going to be getting some of that shortly.
All right. Well, you'll have one social media post here.
This is good. This is my first podcast.
That's awesome, man.
So there it is.
Well, hey, thanks. That's a wrap for today.
All right.
And we'll see you next time.
You got it.